Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Turek Books. New York City, June 21st. I'm going on tour there. I'm headlining a comedy show at Rodney's. Chicago, June 24th. Philly, June 27th. Dallas, June 29th. And San Diego, LA. The point is, check my website for tickets. It's coming up. We're like 2 weeks away from the first show. I want you there. It's going to be a lot of fun. I'm doing some shows on the Central Coast this weekend of California to tune up for it. I'm excited for those too. And yeah, I would love to see you at my comedy show. In place of annoying ads for the lottery and Progressive car insurance, all you're getting is an ad to maybe come see me and support live comedy at a vital time. Okay, maybe not a vital time, but you know what I mean. I hope to see you there. Go to my website, joshuaturek.com, get tickets. Follow me on Bandsintown because that's a great way to keep track of whether I'm coming to your city or not. It'll notify you. So the more who are over there, the more accurate it's going to get. We can't trust these social media companies. All right, we have a great guest today. His name is Hugo. He runs Seizethemeans shirts on Instagram. He's a really interesting guy. I love his worldview, and I hope you do too. Enjoy this episode of Turek Books, and we'll be talking soon. Welcome to Turek Books Podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm your host, Joshua Turek. We're never going to read all the books we want, but when someone tells us about a book, that's its own valid form of experiencing it. Our guests come in to talk about the books that left lasting marks on them as readers, and that becomes a springboard to who they are, who I am, and maybe who all of us are. So sit back, relax, and enjoy it. And who knows, maybe you'll end up grabbing a book or two. Maybe you've read some of them, and it's nice to hear someone else talk about them. We want this to be like a book club, but without the guilt. Thank you so much for tuning into another episode of Turek Books. I'm so excited for our guest today. He's someone whose worldview I deeply admire, came across him on the internet, as we do. And yeah, I think he's a great follow. And more than that, I think he's speaking to a lot of the problems of our times, but in a really cool, fun, interesting way, and at a really vital moment like they all are. Hugo from Seizethemeans shirts, how you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me, Josh.
Yeah, happy to be here. We don't know each other that well. This is kind of our intro, but I feel like I've seen you post. I think I saw you post a list of books, and that's why I reached out to you. Is that right? Are you a big reader?
Yeah. So, I started a challenge to read. God, what am I reading this year? I think I'm just reading 70 books. I joined Fable, which is like to join a book club to read. We were going to read Capital by Marx, and I'm doing terribly at the book club. I'm not keeping up with Marx. I opened Capital for like the fourth time in my life, and I'm just like, ugh. But I'm reading I made myself a goal of reading 70 books, and I'm flying through those. So.
Wow. How are you doing it? Are you doing it on an e-reader, or are you doing it physical?
I'm doing every single format that's available.
Okay.
I started with physical, so I have a bunch of physical that I had on my bookshelf that I hadn't gotten to. I am listening to audiobooks, and I am reading them ebooks as well.
Yeah, because I feel like ebook readers somehow read a lot faster than paper readers. I think the scrolling and I don't know, there just seems like there's some ease there. My point is, I'm trying to find a reason why you're gonna hit 70 books and I'm not gonna hit 70 books. Not this year.
I think audiobooks have changed the game for me. I've always been against them. I thought that I wasn't going to consume the information well enough if I listened to an audiobook. So I listened to one this year, and it was great. I think I listened to the Jakarta method through the audiobook. And then I listened to How to Hide an Empire, that was like a 25, it's a huge book, and it was so entertaining that I consumed it in like a week. Whereas if I would have read How to Hide an Empire, like physically, it would have taken me probably months. You know?
Yeah. How to Hide an Empire I read last year too, and it was pretty breezy as far as some really hardcore subject matter goes. The writer did a really good job. The Jakarta method is at the top of my list as far as books in that terrain goes. How did you like How to Hide an Empire?
I loved it. I got kind of choked up when, I don't want to mess up the twist for everyone. It's not a twist. It's just, it happens in the beginning when you realize he's talking about a person who's like one of his, his grandfather or grandmother leaving Germany during like when Hitler was getting in there. Was that it? I don't remember. That was a while.
Yeah, I remember something about that twist too, and it was like a really nice. He did a really good job with that. The twist is that most Americans don't know how horrible we've been in the Philippines
And Puerto Rico too.
Puerto Rico.
With the what they were doing to women to keep them from giving birth was like pretty bad. And yeah, but the Philippines was like hardcore.
That chapter is the one that lingers, yeah, in Puerto Rico. Avoided the Middle East, but every book, you got to make your choices. But I would have been curious what the author had to say about Palestine and all that. Okay, so and by the way, I bought that illustrated version of Marx's Capital. I can't find it. I was like looking for it in my office, but it's like a little cartoonish one. I heard the guy on the Upstream podcast. I feel like that's how I'm gonna approach it first. I need like cartoons to read Marx because that's dense stuff.
I think in the book club we're using both. Like everyone's like kind of like referencing, like reading the sections that we need for the book club, and then also reading the explanation of that in the illustrated version. There's another explanation too, and I have a bunch of stuff saved. There's a YouTube video, a guy that like does a really good job going through it. There's a lot of help to get through that book, because on my own it's like very difficult I didn't even read Communist Manifesto the first time on my own. I read it with I joined International Marxist Tendency a couple years ago, which is basically like a big Trotskyist book club.
Cool. And what drew you to that book? What drew you to that subject matter?
So basically, I mean, I was pretty apolitical for a long time.
How many years of exploitation as a laborer did it take before you were like, wait, there should probably be another way?
I just, I'll just say that I didn't look at anything from that lens. I just thought, kind of like other people think, that this is just the way it is. I didn't think a better world was possible. I didn't even get brought into it by being a worker. I was actually a real estate agent, and I was showing a luxury apartment in Flatbush in Brooklyn to a guy that came in from Portland. So he was looking for an apartment for him and his wife, and it was a luxury building. It was a Saturday afternoon. It was closed, and I had the keys. I had all the codes. We took the elevator up. I showed him some of the apartments. We were in the gym of the building, and 5 cops came in, guns out, pointed all 5 guns at me. Not to my client, who was, who's a white guy. He just kind of like cowered in the corner, but they pointed all 5 guns at me and just interrogate, like, why are you here? How did you break in? And I'm like, I did not break in. I'm a real estate agent. Oh my God. I turned on my like salesman charm. Nope. Oh, sorry guys. No. I'm a real estate agent. We're here. I have all the keys. Everything's fine. And they're like, how do we know? And I'm like, I can show you the keys. I have the codes. What's the code? I'm like, I don't know off the top of my head. I'm gonna reach slowly into my pocket though. Like I was being super chill. They were not chill at all. Like one of the guys was like shaking like a leaf. Probably like 5 minutes they were holding me at gunpoint before they finally were like, and I distinctly remember them being so angry. They were like, fuck, like damn it, like they wanted action, and didn't apologize and just left. So turns out the owner of the building had most of these buildings, when they're empty like that and they're brand new, they have like a silent alarm, and they call us and they let us know, like, hey, there's a silent alarm. You need to call a security company and let them know that, let them know the code, So they didn't. He apologized. He sent the guy, the management company apologized to me. We're like, we're really sorry that we didn't tell you about the thing. But yeah, that set me off on a tangent of like, what the, like, anti-police and just race again, I think I was posting, that was back when Trump was president, and I was like, this is only like 2020, and I just went down. I think the first thing I did is like I told my 2 friends that they are Marxists, and I don't know if they suggested it to me, but I read Autobiography of Malcolm X. That was like the first thing I read where I was like, huh. And like that kind of put me into this space of like maybe it's capitalism. And then I read Assada. And Assada was like, it's capitalism, And I was like, whoa. And then, I just wanted to know more. And, I jumped right in. And my friends were like, why don't you join IMT? And I just contacted IMT. And it was COVID, so it was all Zoom. And they basically did little speeches about Like they basically did book reports, you know, like you would get assigned a chapter of a certain book, and we'd have meetings once a week, and then they'd talk about, you know, we'd outline it and people could ask questions. It was like, it was really great to learn about Marxism, and you know, it really helped me get that perspective. So yeah, that was
Yeah, I mean, thank you for sharing that. What a nightmare, first of all, Jesus. And then the nightmare being that they were so disappointed you were a law-abiding citizen. And then, but making the leap from the police state and race relations to this is inextricably linked to our lives as workers and capitalism and stuff. That's a real intellectual journey rather than just the emotional terror that you went through. Have books always been there for you like that? And that's how you found your way? Or you said you talked to a couple of your friends, and obviously, you know, there's a lot of details I'm not privy to, but...
Yeah, I'm not sure how it happened. I think it was clear to my two like really good friends, Kirsch and Josh, that they were like, you know, if you're gonna talk about race, if you're gonna, you know, be angry at like the cops, then maybe you should read Autobiography of Malcolm X. You know what I mean? Because I was like hungry. I was like, what am I like? I want to get involved. I want to like, you know, I kind of felt like I needed to take some sort of action, and so that's the direction they pushed me in. I think that's how it happened.
Okay.
So yeah, no, I don't know if books had always. I mean, I've read a bunch of books, but I'm more like a sci-fi horror nerd. You know, I wasn't really paying attention to anything political. Like, it's kind of boring if you're not really interested in changing anything, reading history. You know.
Yeah, or until it comes right in your, you know, directly in front of you, and you're like, oh, okay, I'm feeling something, I'm witnessing and experiencing something more evil than, because you're like, wait, they don't cover this. This doesn't somehow get across in the day-to-day conversation. There's always some spin, but when you see ugliness up close like that, you got to go somewhere after that. But yeah, sounds like you went in a really interesting direction. So sci-fi, are you on? So are you mixing your books? You go from Jakarta Method to How to Hide an Empire. Do you give yourself a little?
Oh yeah, I'm reading a lot of. Yeah, I'm reading The Poppy War by R.F. Kuang right now. It's a trilogy about. It's kind of like a fantasy trilogy that's set in like ancient China, and like there's people with like powers, and you know there's like the main character can like wield fire. I read her other book, Babel, which is about like these kids that go to what's that really nice college in England? Oxford.
Oxford.
Yeah, I think they go to Oxford. I forgot which one they go to. It's a whole I've read a lot of fantasy this year, a lot of fantasy, and I just finished reading Hell House and the other one he wrote about the Will Smith movie, I Am Legend. I should be going through my list so I can show you, but
no, I love it. Yeah, I mean, it sounds pretty prolific, and we're living in a day and age where it seems like all the powers that be are taking all the wrong leads from sci-fi. Like they're inverting the moral to the story. They're being the bad guys.
Yeah, especially if you read like Parable of the Sower. That's like one of my favorite. I love Octavia Butler. Parable of the Sower, it feels real, you know?
Yes.
The one I just read that was amazing this year. This is, I think, one of my favorite books this year.
The Word for World is Forest. Ursula K. Le Guin.
This was not even on my radar. This is my friend lent it to me. We met up for dinner and he just brought it. My friend Jeff brought it. And I was like, okay. I had no idea. This one, I read this in like, I swear to God, like 4 sittings.
No kidding.
Like I laid in bed, I opened it up, and from the first 5-6 pages, I was like, what? I was like sucked in, and I read like 40 pages in one go. And I think it's under 200 pages. So
what was it that you found so compelling about it?
So basically, the Earthlings are inhabiting a peaceful world with a bunch of little guys, little cute like beings that they're in my head. I'm imagining them like Ewoks, and they're like the nicest, cutest little things in the world, and they are enslaving them and making them mind their own earth, their own planet for them, which is like a giant forest, and they revolt, and like they are like a super, like there's no revolting in their civilization, so it's like a big deal that like it goes against everything in their being for these aliens to like fight back. Super great. I love it. I don't even want to say anything else because I don't want to ruin it for everyone. I like cried twice.
Whoa.
Yeah, it's good.
Revenge of the Teddy Bears.
They're so cute.
Ursula K. Le Guin keeps getting brought up on this show. I keep seeking out her books whenever I'm book hunting. I'll be book hunting tomorrow at the once a month library, Friends of the Library book sale here. But I can't find her books. Like, obviously, I could go to Barnes and Noble and find her books, but I want there to be a little je ne sais quoi to how I come across her for the first time. And she eludes me. Maybe no one's getting rid of her books. I don't know.
I do mutual aid with a bookstore, but it's like a revolutionary Spanglish bookstore. So they carry, like, their big sci-fi collection is all people of color. So it's all Ursula Le Guin, Octavia Butler, N.K. Jemisin. So you'll see a lot of the, like, black and brown and, sci-fi writers in there. So they have a lot of Ursula Le Guin, like, used and new, and they have the same books in Spanish, which is great. They have a lot of, like, they have Parable of the Sower in Spanish. They have, like, a bunch of stuff. It's great.
That's rad. Where do you live?
I live in Bushwick, in Brooklyn.
Oh, yeah, that's right. You were saying Flatbush and all that. I didn't know if you'd stayed there. Okay. Oh, all right. Cool. Yeah, that bookstore reminds me of All Power Books in LA.
Nice. Yeah.
They have a similar kind of mission and really cool people involved in that. Yeah, Octavia Butler, going back there, did you read the sequel to Parable of the Sower? Did you read Parable of the Talent? What do you think about that one?
I mean, I just reread them last year. And it was so much better the second time. Definitely, you're gritting your teeth through some of the parts, but knowing the way everything turns out, I mean, I don't know. She's so good at, like, character development, and, like, I love every single person in her story. Parable of the Talents is also, like, kind of tugs at your heartstrings. How are we? Can we just spoil books on this podcast?
Yeah, I say spoil them. Because to me,
especially with her relationship with her daughter,
Yes.
Like
yes.
that. That's the twist of the second book. I mean, it's not even a twist. You hear it. I think it starts that way.
Yeah.
With her daughter writing.
The
right?
fact that, like, you could kind of be seen as this savior to the world, and yet you're still, like, kind of a fuck up parent.
Yeah.
And the daughter has a real. It seems like children. I mean, no one sees their parents more clearly than children. Like,
right.
You've had to study these people for your own survival, and then, your own curiosity. And yeah, the way the daughter kind of, strips down who her mom was. Yeah, really interesting. I read that book right as the election was going down, and it just felt like the absolute wrong book to be reading at the moment. I was reading Shock Doctrine by Naomi Klein right around then too, and I had to put that one down because, I mean, she got deep into, like, the torturing of radicals, revolutionaries, working party people in some of these South American countries, and the whole U.S. Manufactured coups. And it was just like, okay, I'm going to stop that for now.
That's the same as, that sounds like Jakarta Method did that too. And then Washington Bullets was also, like, really hard to... I haven't read Shock Doctrine. Yeah.
I'm like 100 pages into Washington Bullets right now. Yeah. No, he is a little more, but it seems like he's zipping past things a little quicker. Naomi Klein just, like, doesn't stop. She wrote this piece for The Guardian recently about all these tech billionaires and the sort of futuristic dystopian cities they plan on building or whatever, and that one really rocked me too. I don't know if there's value to being that rocked by a piece of work if it's going to kind of shut you down or derail you. I'm curious your thoughts, because this is heavy subject matter, and then the idea is that you're reading it to somehow imagine a better world, or at least bear witness to the ugly truths of this one so that the facts are not lost. I mean, that's where I come from. I'm curious, you've brought up a couple pretty unvarnished territories of story too, so I'm curious why you read these kinds of books.
I think I agree. Like, because it is really hard to read sometimes. So funny enough, the other book I just finished. I've been reading this for, like, I want to say a year.
King
I had it
Leopold's
next to my
Ghost.
bed. I've been reading it. I will read, like, a paragraph before bed, and it was really good in the beginning. It was very like it went really fast. It felt like a biography, and then by the middle, now we're getting into, like, the nitty gritty of, like, the rubber collecting and chopping off people's hands and children. I just finished it last night, and then this week I started reading Cobalt Red, which is How the Blood of the Congo Powers Our Lives. I listened to that audiobook and I finished King Leopold's Go, so it feels like a sequel. And yeah, I was driving home from work listening to Cobalt Red, and I think we need to read it because we need to know like how the comforts that we have, like why we have them. Why am I able to afford a MacBook? Why am I able to afford an iPhone that can do everything? Like I was born in the 80s. Like when I went to school, I had a calculator, and like, you know, I had to write, and by the time I was in college, I had an iPod. Like, why am I able to have all this technology in such a short span of time? And it's because there are little children being used as slaves to mine the cobalt that powers my devices. So I think it does put a different perspective on how I look at the world, because, you know, there is no ethical consumption under capitalism, but I was just talking about getting a new iPhone. Do I really need a new iPhone, or can I buy a refurbished one so I'm not like participating as much? And, you know.
Yeah, and this iPhone, by the way, is like a requisite to being able to feed yourself at this point in our country. And so, you know, yeah, it's not so much a choice as it's like almost a required tool to navigate the system we're in if you want to, like, you know, feed your family and feed yourself. And so, yeah, it's kind of like a hostage situation. But hearing you say that, it's like, yeah, bridging the path between material comfort and the suffering that it was built on, and is the only way to understand how to get there and maybe collectively get away. I mean, that's why I approach this information. It's like I want to know, like, and also it brings clarity to why my life doesn't feel good. I'm like, why is this so incongruous? Why is everyone I know on antidepressants? Why, you know, like, why when I walk my dog to the park, are there human beings just, you know, strewn about, suffering on the ground? And like, how does this all connect? And yeah, to me, it's like, am I going to solve everything? No. Am I taking as much action as I can? No. But like, there is a strength to trying to build an understanding beyond the illusions that have been designed in front of us. I'm reading similarly, the Rediscovery of America,
Nice.
Native Peoples in the Unmaking of U.S. History by Ned Blackhawk. I read Indigenous Peoples' History of the United States by Roxanne Dunbar Ortiz last year. And similar, I bring that up because you talking about reading King Leopold's Ghost a paragraph at a time. That's where I'm at with Rediscovery of America. A paragraph at a time. You just get so overwhelmed with the sadness, the impotent rage, the ideas that it didn't have to be like this, and the fact that, like, there were people, the original inhabitants of this land that we're on, they've already endured an apocalypse. And people have these ideas of their behavior, and it's like, well, no, most of the observations written about their behavior was witnessing people undergoing an apocalypse. Yeah, it's pretty hardcore stuff. And yeah, but I do find it's like, oh yeah, that's why things feel so incongruous, because this nation is cursed, from the genocide of natives to slavery to all the imperialism, hard and soft, that followed. It's like, yeah, no, we're carrying a curse around. And I think even just being an acknowledgement is better than going, why does shit keep hitting the fan here? Why are most of the people not getting by here, you know? And it's like, well, yeah, there's patterns. History lives on. We're not in a vacuum. I'm going on a rant, but, you know, that's when you meet someone who's reading similar books, you got to ask them why. And so I'm really curious, and I'm thankful that you shared that.
Yeah, because I think it is what you said. I agree with what you said about how it helps me see the world and understand what's going on. Like, this isn't happening by chance. Like, why do bad things happen? It's like, no, well, this system is set up, was completely based on lies and murder and genocide. So, of course, everything sucks now. Like, we're supposed to be being exploited. Like, they need us to, the people, the top 1%. I feel like a conspiracy theorist saying, like, the leaders, they, you know, but the people that are in power don't want us to know all this stuff. They want us to think. That's why they didn't teach us this in school. You know, they made it seem like the Native Americans, yeah, it was a sad thing, but then we had Thanksgiving and everyone was happy after that. And yeah, we had slaves, but then Abraham Lincoln said, no more slaves, and everything was fine. And now black people are just some of them are ungrateful, you know? And as someone like, so after, I will also say that after the whole thing with the cops happened, I realized that I didn't want to be a real estate agent anymore. And I wanted to do, as I got more into Marxism, I realized that I wanted to do something that would help me be more useful in my community. And I also was like, well, if the revolution came or the apocalypse came, like, and we had a community, like, you know, in Parable of the Sower, like, what would be my use, you know? Like, selling apartments? Like, no. I should learn how to cook, clean, or do something. So that's why I got into the medical field, and that's how I, you know, got on an ambulance. And this stuff really comes in handy as you drive around, because most of our calls are to people that are struggling, you know, that are in the projects, that are in New York City Housing Authority houses, and, you know, homeless shelters and family shelters. Like a big majority of these people are people of color. There's not a lot of Native Americans in this neighborhood, but, you know, a lot of people that whose countries have been ravaged by American imperialism. So it's really important to me to look at people in my community and look at them with that understanding that they are victims of capitalism. They are not bad people, because gotta be, if you know, as a first responder, all cops are bastards, but a lot of first responders are also bootlickers who will look at people like that and be like, they're lazy. This scumbag, you know, is saying he has chest pain, you know, but he's living in a shelter. So we don't really believe him. And, you know, I just feel like learning all of this stuff helps me have more empathy towards my fellow men. It helps me, and it helps me realize that I am just as close to becoming, you know, to being on the street, to calling for chest pain from a shelter, you know, and not being believed, and, you know, probably dying of a heart attack. So I do think it's necessary to learn all this stuff to have a better relationship with our community, and realize that, you know, even though it is hopeless, there are also great books that teach us about community, and Mutual Aid is a great book. I forgot the subtext of that one, but the rest of that title. But Mutual Aid is a great book. Reading about the Black Panthers and what they did is amazing. I just read Black Against Empire. Like there are a lot of books that are, besides learning history, it's important to read about how we can fight back and how we can help in our community and get involved, and because a better world is possible, you know?
Yes.
So yeah.
I love that. You're approaching a very heavy reality, but with context. And that context probably opens you up to more empathy, and thus feeling more pain and feeling more for the people you're encountering, whereas it would be really easy to approach them with a closed off heart and believe that what they're enduring is just a personal flaw. Or so how admirable. So you said to yourself, I need to do something that's more functional, more immediately helpful than selling houses. And did you go to school to become a paramedic?
It's a very short, so I'm not a paramedic. Paramedic is advanced life-saving.
Got it.
So I'm basic life-saving, which is an EMT.
Okay.
So for EMT, it's actually only I think it was 12 weeks.
Okay.
It's a pretty short course. It's really intense. It's it's an all-day course, but I was in real estate, so I had nothing but time, you know? I just showed apartments at night. And yeah, it took 3 months. I passed the test. I came second in my class.
Oh.
And they really need medical first responders in New York City, because we get about, I can't tell you off the top of my head, but I think it's over 1 million calls a year, 911 calls.
Whoa.
So yeah, we are very busy in New York City. So they put you on the street almost right away.
Wow.
And you go from learning about this in class to showing up and seeing a guy bleeding from his stomach from a stab wound and having to figure out how to help.
And how was that jarring? do you feel like you already had the emotional tools in place to figure this all out, or are you figuring it out on the fly? You
figure it out on the fly, but I also was I don't think everyone can do it. I was very surprised. The first time I heard someone talk about, I don't want to gross everyone out, but the first time I ever heard in class someone talk about vomiting blood, I felt dizzy. I felt the room spin. I was
right.
Whoa. Just the idea of that freaked me out. And the first time I saw someone bleeding profusely, I didn't feel anything. I just realized, I think having a job to do, knowing that it's, when you see it in person, you realize it's not me. It's not me that's bleeding. It's them.
Right.
And I have to help them. So I just, you kind of just take charge.
Right. So it's like the way your brain works, and your brain works on action and the tasks at hand, and yeah, you attend to them. I feel like I'm the same way. I've seen some really gory things in my life, and yeah, it was like, how do I help this person more? But then, yeah, if I were to read it in a book or someone were to be talking about it, yeah, I like you were saying, the room would start spinning. You'd want to
Right?
pass out. You're like, no, please stop. I don't watch movies like that. I try to stay away from that kind of stuff. And so then, yeah, you're thinking, how can I be of use to a community? Let's say all this breaks down. Let's say things start, which, hey, not a stretch of the imagination.
Nope.
You're going, oh, I know how to help people. I know the basics and beyond, and have the experience of helping people. That's so admirable. I'm not trying to make a saint out of you, but that's cool, because we all think it. People who are thinking, how do I help build a better world? I spend a lot of time just thinking about it, and I've settled on the fact that, hey, maybe I'm like more of a communicator. Maybe that's my strength, is communicating these ideas to people. Because every time I have these fantasies about engaging with community, it's like, I'm not a person who brings people together. That's not who I am. So where do I fit? And then I'm like, well, is a communicator enough? Are there more tangible ways of helping people? But then I zoom out and I look at, what's been happening in Palestine, and how information and communication has been what's allowed these evils to continue in Gaza and the West Bank and beyond, in the whole world. And it's the concealment of information and the dominance of communication that's allowed that. And so it's like, well, actually, no, information is kind of some of the most important raw material in the world right now. And I don't know, that's the way I look at it. And books being, I think, the most sound ways of getting that communication across. Not the most exciting, not the most compelling or even relevant to a lot of people, but the most sound, because very few people can cheat their way through a book. I know there are some, and I know that people will zip off they'll ghostwrite some bestsellers for a TV talking head, but I trust books more than I do a lot of other forms of media.
Yeah, especially when you read like some of the history we're reading, like you can tell like there's like research done in these areas, and they have details that show that. And I think that's speaking of Palestine, like I think a lot of the stuff that we're reading, especially like the Jakarta method we mentioned, and like Washington bullets, like that helps us disseminate the news, what we're watching now, like, and see how manufacturing consent, and I read those back to back, Manufacturing Consent and Inventing Reality by Michael Parenti. Those back to back were also really helpful, because you can see that there's a pattern. They've been doing this, for a while, like showing us, making, perfect victims, saying that whoever is like fighting the power is actually a terrorist. And it really shows that they've been using the same game plan for a long time in the media. So no, like you said, I think communication is key. Like we need to be able to communicate with other people. I mean, as a communicator, you're able to bring people together. Yes. And my other favorite thing, I don't know if it's Che that says it, but like not all farmers can be soldiers, but all soldiers can be farmers. So like, we can, no matter what, we're going to be of use in a community that needs help. So we'll figure something out. I just wanted to do to learn something now. Like, I don't know anything. I grew up in the city, so I don't know how to build a house. I don't know. I've worked at Old Navy, so I know how to fold clothes and make a denim wall really nice. I've been a waiter and a bartender for a long time, but I don't know. I mean, I guess we might need those in a community or in a commune.
Service, service industry lends itself to serving people in other ways and understanding what makes people tick. And usually people aren't as bad as you think they are. They're just hungry, and you need to give them their food a little faster that's valuable. I've worked retail, and I still don't know how to fold clothes in that real sharp retail way. It never clicked, no matter how many times they told me. In lieu of commercials, we interrupt this broadcast to remind you to go check out my comedy tour. See if I'm coming to your city in the United States, joshuaturek.com. If you're listening in another country, follow my Bandsintown account. Maybe I'll be doing a tour soon. Canada, Europe, who knows, Australia. The point is, in lieu of a lottery commercial, you're getting one for Joshua Turek. New York, that show is in 2 weeks. Get tickets now. I know you're listening because I've seen the stats. New York and Brooklyn, you're one of my top markets. Chicago, same thing. Philly, same thing. I'm coming to your city. Let's hang out. Let's laugh and talk after the show. Whatever. All right. Back to the episode. And as for building, I worked on a farm one summer, and I was tasked with building a fence for the cows. It was an animal sanctuary, actually.
Oh, nice.
And boy, did that thing come out crooked. No matter how much I thought I was doing it right and using the levels and all the rest of it. So I know my limitations there too. But yeah, you've pragmatically found a way for that to fit. And has anything surprised you, or have you built confidence in assembling these skills and this understanding? Because I'm in Tucson right now, and we just moved here. We just got health insurance. It takes you 8 months to see a primary care physician right now in Tucson. I've called around. My wife called around for the first time. I'm finding out there might be some little ways in, but that's where we're at medically. Like, yeah, so sorry to interrupt the question, but yeah, have you felt a confidence in understanding these things better? Like the most fundamental ways of caring for people?
Yeah, I mean, as a first responder, like medically, I am definitely more confident in dealing with, traumas and people going through pain and people bleeding and mainly strokes. I feel like strokes, CVAs are very common, so I know how to handle those better. But I think also it's helped me see how how our health industry is like failing us. Definitely. Most providers are overwhelmed and understaffed. And you can see if you walk into any ER in New York City, the majority of the people there are people who have not been to a doctor, don't have a primary care physician because they don't have insurance or they just have Medicaid. And it's really hard to get seen, like you said, like in Tucson. I don't know how hard it is here on Medicaid. Well, I do know because I used to be on it. But it's crazy the difference between having like private insurance and having Medicaid or Medicare, because it's a world of difference. If something's wrong with me, I will be in an office seeing someone today by just paying $35, my copay. Everyone else just goes to the hospital because they can't be seen by anyone. And then hospitals get overwhelmed. And as soon as you walk in, nurses and doctors look at you and they ask, as soon as I bring someone in, they ask, where did you pick them up? And if I say a shelter, most of the time there's a look of like, well, put them over there then, Whereas if I'm like, oh, I picked them up from home, and they see that they have an address, they walk right up to them like, hey, what's going on, sir? I understand a little more about how things work and how a lot of people that are houseless, I'll say, end up suffering and dying from more preventable diseases because they are overlooked, not believed. If you come in drunk, automatically they're like, oh, well, he's just a drunk, which alcoholism is a mental illness. So, we should still treat them. Sorry, I feel like I'm going on a tangent.
No, you're not.
I think so much about this stuff every shift.
I guess just like kind of one of the reasons I wanted to have you on, not knowing you personally, but just from the little things I've gleaned from what you share online and on Instagram at Seizethemeans shirts. And my mind works the same way. And these are pressing issues. And like you said, we are closer to being that neglected person than we are in the tech billionaires' dystopia cities and getting the invite there. And so, yeah, no, it's pressing. And, it's a book podcast, but yeah, that's what they do. They reveal where we're at currently. So then as you started doing that, is that when you started kind of making some videos and things of that nature that kind of spoke to your worldview, or have you been doing that even since for a while?
No, as I started learning about learning about Marxism and anti-racism, it started with more anti-racism. And like NRA stuff, and I started making videos about that, and like a bunch of like Trump supporters and racists would come into my comments and like start arguments. So I started kind of responding to their arguments with like funny videos of me like being sarcastic kind of. I've been doing the same thing the whole time. It's like I speak in your voice and make you sound like, listen to the way you sound ridiculous, pointing out hypocrisy. So yeah, no, it was more out of resentment. I feel like a lot of my videos come from resentment. And I don't want to argue with every single person in my life. I want to find a release to my resentment. I'm not good in the moment, like arguing. I get very like tense and sweaty, and I'm just like, my heart goes, and I'm like, how could you say something like that? So I'd rather like think about it, make a funny video about it. And then it actually helps me in the real world now deal with coworkers, family members who have these views that are, classist, just disparaging homeless people, immigrants, racism. And I can just combat that with like, well, wouldn't you want to be a little more compassionate? And I could come at them with a little, with not so much of a yelling, like angry, like I no longer go to that place automatically. I can tell them in a more passive voice that there's a nicer way to deal with these people, These people are not different from us. They are just like us. And like, sometimes when you come at people like that, especially in my family, they'll be like, hey, you know what? You're right. Like, why would I say something so terrible? And I'm like, exactly, right? That doesn't sound like you. You're a good person.
Yeah, it's interesting. I was talking with someone about this recently, how anger is really effective in a very short-term problem scenario. Like if you're defending yourself, whatever, anger, yeah, it's effective. But as a long-term solution, even your friends get tired of hearing you angry. Even people who are right in line with your worldview don't want to be in the anger all the time. And so, but it's interesting. It seems like maybe making videos and crafting content and things like that speak to your worldview, like you said, it's like a release valve. So you've almost get to exercise those demons so that you are calm for the in-person interactions. Is that kind of right?
Yeah. I mean, yeah. I just didn't want to like blow up on family because it was during COVID and like, you know what I mean? And like people were online a lot and arguing. And so I found a release valve for that. And then, but also I do think it helps like put stuff that I learn into a, like, when you get a book to read in school and then you have to write a book report on it.
Yeah.
Like sometimes I feel like putting the information that I am learning into a video concept or, into an argument that makes it funny, like feels like I'm using the information I just learned. And then, especially, I don't want to be like building community online, and that wasn't like my goal either, but getting all these people to relate to the videos I'm making and like reading the comments and people be like, oh my God, the same thing happens to me, like that is also like a nice feeling, and
really nice. Makes you feel sane.
Right?
Yeah, and also I've come to realize, like you were talking about the angry comments in the comment section, I've come to realize that if my video is getting seen by enough people, usually on my Turek books, because that's where I really speak to a lot of my worldview in a direct way, and synthesize information I'm getting from the things I'm reading and sharing it with people, which, hearing you say that is why I do it. It's like, okay, now take your test, but like a really fun test where you get to share the richest of the information that you think is going to resonate with people and with yourself. But I've realized in the comments section, someone will come to my defense and they'll be able to articulate exactly what I want to articulate, that I'm not smart enough or even versed enough, because maybe that person, this is the one thing they're obsessed with, this one detail of this situation, and they come in and they put it in razor sharp terms, and I'm like, great, there it is. That's what I wanted to say to that troll. And
that happens to me all the time, and then I'll use something that they said later on in an actual conversation because they articulated it so well. Like they brought it down to brass tacks, and I'm just like, yeah, that's right. I don't even argue in my comments anymore. I leave it alone.
Yeah, let the conversation happen. Once in a while, I'll detect that someone is on the verge of understanding something, and I could sense a certain level of what I perceive as goodness, and But yeah, I also have become very attuned to the bots and to the troll farms on certain subjects. But yeah, you talking about how you will then use that language in another conversation you have just from like a comment someone leaves. It's like, that's really cool how that osmosis occurs. I mean, it's like infiltrating what is clearly a parasitic medium with, information that kind of like is really valuable. And not profitable to people. Just morally good or spiritually profitable or whatever. Well, cool. Yeah. Were there any other books you really needed to get off your chest that you brought in your pile? Because I feel like we just kind of organically wove through a lot, and I don't want to leave you hanging.
I brought two more. I brought Fight Like Hell, which is the untold history of American labor, which I'm still reading, but has been amazing. And then Haddock, it's called Uprising, sorry, by Haddocks, by her name's Margaret Peterson Haddocks. They're both like kind of intertwined because Kim Kelly's book, The Fight Like Hell, is about like unions and labor history in America and people that started unions and did strikes and strike breaking, stuff like that. But Uprising is about the shirtwaist factory fire that happened in New York, the Triangle Shirtwaist Factory. So she took like a real life story and like made a fictional story about it and like put a lot of these fake characters in it, but all from the history that she took. So it's actually a really great book, which is kind of what I like to do. I like reading like actual history, but then like pairing it with fun. Well, this isn't fun because it's a sad ending, obviously, but pairing it with like sci-fi and
story
fiction, that kind of stories that kind of intertwine with what we're already with our worldview as well.
Yeah, well, and like it or not, like story and the structure of story has been baked into us, and so it's like, yeah, like that is gonna get the wheels turning a little faster than not at this point in time. That's just where we're at. I mean, that kind of thing is really valuable. And it's like this rediscovery of America book I'm reading. At some point, I'm like, oh, this is a textbook. You are reading a textbook. And that's okay. And I'm almost done, by the way.
Wow, that's
I'm
great.
almost done. It's taken me forever. But yeah, when people... It's interesting with nonfiction especially, the caliber of writing can make a huge difference as to whether that material permeates or not. Or, yeah, how much endurance we've built up to take writing that's seemingly a little more dry. But
I mean, a lot of it isn't. I gotta say, a lot of the books, these books specifically, like King Leopold's Ghost, Adam Hochschild did a great job. Like it's very, especially I mentioned it before, but the beginning reads really interestingly. Like it kind of reads like fiction. Like he's talking about this one guy. Forgot his name now because he died already 100 years ago. but
as we do,
he weaves this like really nice web of this guy who like changed his name and he was an orphan and like it reads really well. And then the Fight Like Hell is just super fun to read because it's all about, a lot of it is women leading these unions and like telling people from all different backgrounds, like, we need to unionize or they're gonna screw us over. And this fills you with hope. Fight Like Hell really fills me with hope because they faced persecution, cops literally shot into crowds. You know, the Triangle Shirtwaist Factory is in Fight Like Hell as well. And people, burned up and died, a lot of young women like died. And they still fought. They still like went out and just yelled at people and marched and, refused to go to work until they had safer conditions. And that's the only reason we have any of the workers' rights we have today. So this gives me hope because it's like, oh, if we actually unionize and if we actually like fight, we can get what we want. It's not going to be easy, but, we can make it happen.
Yes.
Together.
Yes. That book sounds amazing. I bet Hollywood's so conflicted about that book. They're like, women leading conflict against the bad guys. But wait, if we release this movie and glorify unions, then we'll have to keep paying union workers. What do we do? Oh, yeah, no, that one sounds great. I mean, you gave a great list. I'm hungry to read some of these books. Fight Like Hell. Yeah, that jumps out as like a must read. And then the Ursula K. Le Guin. I mean, all of our conversation, I've just really appreciated it. And you know a reader when you see one. And thank you so much for sharing all your books with us, where you're at currently, and bringing in some older ones.
Nice, thanks for having me. Yeah, it's been really fun. I feel like I needed this to get me to help me remember everything that I've been reading, because I'm just flying through them because I'm trying to get to my goal, and I just keep like not covering it. So it felt nice to like go over some of it.
Good. Yeah, I know. As I do this podcast more, I'm like, okay, this podcast is sort of a book report.
Yeah.
I try not to tell my guests that before they come on, but as I think about it, I'm like, yeah, this is pretty much a book report, isn't it?
Well, when
But
you asked me, I was worried you were gonna like quiz me,
oh
you
my
know?
God. Oh my
Like,
God.
okay, you read King Leopold's Ghost. What major action was taken in 1907 that led to him being overthrown? Riddle me that, Hugo. And I'm just like,
Are you sure you read this book? One of my lines that it's in my new poetry book, is something about how when I'm reading books, I don't need to retain all this knowledge. It's just a pleasure encountering it. And because my brain will hold on to, the Philippines and How to Hide an Empire. That sticks out. And when you bring up Puerto Rico, it awakens something in me because you've read it too. But I'm not like encyclopedic about going back through what I've read. And so it's fascinating about kind of chewing on the stuff that does stick, even if it's random, even if it's where you read that book. You know, you said you sat down in 4 sittings and you finished that Ursula K. Le Guin book. And like, to me, it's like, that's such a compelling detail that has nothing to do with the text of it, but it says so much about how you were responding to the text of it. And so, that's kind of where I got to live with it too. So, I feel like you and I, our brains kind of seemingly work in similar ways there because, no tests here.
Right? Yeah. It's funny. That's exactly what I was thinking about. Some of the historical stuff I'm reading. Like, I like put on the audiobook and I'm listening to it and I'm just like, I am listening to it fast, right? But I'm listening to everything that's happening and I'm consuming it, and I'm actually consuming it. Whereas if I were to, put it next to my bed, it's going to take me a year. So instead, I'm listening to the audiobook and I'm at least getting all this information. I listen to podcasts and I don't retain everything. It's a conversation. So I just feel like it's good enough, and a lot of times if I listen to a really good audiobook, like I just read Braiding Sweetgrass.
Oh yeah.
That was what? I did not know a book like that existed.
I have it on my coffee table right now. Robin, can't remember her last name. Did you enjoyed it?
What? I can't believe, like I said, it was just beautiful. I'm Robin Wall Kimmerer.
Yes.
That book, I'm going to get it physically because like I need to hold that and I want to reread that. And I just want to you could pick any page off of that book and just read it. And it's like, she's a poet.
Wow.
Hey, you're also a poet, right?
Yeah, but not like that.
Real, recognize real, right?
Yeah, but I don't elicit that reaction from people. There's an interesting thing that I heard someone say that stuck with me ever since. It's like the people you admire aren't necessarily the ones who are going to admire you, and that's okay. As far as like the work you do, and I think that's so interesting. It's cool when it does line up and you do, but like, there's people like that who's like pages are so lush with that kind of writing, and I'm like, I'm just gonna be a fan of you. We're not the same thing.
I don't have to be you.
Yeah, that's right. I'm like out in the kennel making my noises. It's different.
Exactly.
Anyway, I've really appreciated chatting with you, hearing what you have to say, and kind of having our first conversational introduction. Thank you.
Yeah, that was fun.
Thank you so much for doing it.
I also looked up your tour dates, and I saw you're coming to New York City.
Yeah.
So I'll see if I could bring my wife to see your show.
Oh, that would be amazing. Yeah, Rodney's on June 21st. I think it's on the Upper East Side, but I would love that. And I'll give you guys a poetry book if you show up. I'll give you them after the show. Yeah, and it'd be great. Be great to meet a little IRL.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Maybe you'll rescue me, off the sidewalk too. That
would be that. You don't actually want that.
No. I prefer to see you at the comedy show if that's possible. All right, Hugo. Well, thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate you. Yeah, your Instagram is Seizethemeans shirts. Yeah, it's quickly one of my favorite follows. And thanks so much for doing what you do and sharing what you've shared.
Thanks a lot, Josh. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you for listening to another episode of Turek Books, and happy reading out there. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Turek Books. Before the episode starts, New York City, June 21st. Get tickets to my tour. I've been doing some stand-up in Tucson, getting ready for my tour. It's been going really well. I've been having a lot of fun with the crowds. And after New York is Chicago, Philly, Dallas, San Diego, LA, Eureka, Seattle, Portland, all kinds of spots. I'm adding dates as we go. Follow my bandsintown.com. You just use your Spotify account. It lets you in real quick, and then you can keep track of people you like, you want to know who are touring, and people you like, people whose tickets you may want to get, including hopefully me. Also, I would be remiss to say I would be remiss not to tell you that my new poetry book of dumb importance is out. Signed first edition copies on my website. They're going fast. The first 500 first edition copies signed, sealed, and delivered by yours truly. I really love this poetry collection. A lot of people have been buying both of my books. There's a deal on both of my books on my site. So anyway, I'll stop with all the Joshua Turek nonsense and get you to the most important thing, and get you to books. But actually, we have a very special guest related to Joshua Turek, and that's my sister. So it's a lot of fun. She moved to Tucson right around the same time I did. She's very smart. She's a writer, a musician, a handy woman. She's really done it all, and she's good at all of it too. So I really enjoyed talking to her, and it was cool, kind of interacting with each other under this different conceit. Anyway, I hope you enjoy it, and got some good episodes coming up for you, so thanks for tuning in. All right. Thank you for listening to another episode of Turek Books. Be sure to like, subscribe, thumbs up, any kind of thing that could help us get listened to or watched by more people. We really appreciated having you, and hope to see you again next week with a new guest and plenty of books. Take care until then.